Hi, welcome to today's deep dive summary of Ultra Learning by Scott Young, Part 2. One of the more psychologically nuanced principles Scott Young presents is retention. It is not enough to understand or even recall something temporarily. Learners must design their efforts to ensure knowledge sticks in the long term. Retention issues often arise because people fail to revisit and reinforce previously learned material. Young discusses spacing and review systems as essential tools for beating the forgetting curve, a cognitive phenomenon where people lose information over time unless it is consciously retained. He introduces the idea that spaced repetition systems, such as flashcards or interval training, can be highly effective when applied correctly. But even more crucial is an awareness of when forgetting starts to occur. Rather than relying on a fixed review schedule, Ultra learners track their own decay of memory and strategically re-engage with the material before the memory fades completely. This process of continuous reinforcement allows them to maintain a deep reservoir of knowledge over time, even while shifting focus to new learning objectives. Intuition is another domain that ultra learners must engage with, especially when tackling complex or abstract subjects like mathematics, science, or advanced technical disciplines. According to Young, real mastery goes beyond mere memorization or the ability to replicate procedures. It involves developing a felt understanding, where concepts are internalized so deeply that they can be manipulated, applied, and explained in different ways. Intuition is not instantaneous. It is built slowly through deep engagement with problems, self-explanation, and repeated questioning. Young encourages learners to dwell in the uncomfortable space of not immediately understanding something, resisting the urge to rush through material in the interest of progress. He shares that many learners confuse familiarity with comprehension, and that true insight often arises from confronting confusion, working through challenging problems, and exploring ideas from multiple angles. The cultivation of intuition distinguishes someone who can truly innovate or teach from someone who merely performs. The final principle in Young's framework is experimentation. Once a learner has developed a foundational level of skill, the next phase involves pushing boundaries, trying unconventional approaches, and customizing the learning process for individual needs and ambitions. Experimentation involves risk and uncertainty, but it is also where the most meaningful breakthroughs occur. Young observes that many ultra-learners expand their abilities by stepping beyond prescribed methods, designing hybrid approaches, and sometimes breaking rules to discover more efficient or enjoyable paths to mastery. Whether this means switching the medium of instruction, altering the environment, or incorporating gamified elements into the learning routine, the ultra-learner constantly adapts and evolves their strategy. This mindset turns the learning journey into a laboratory where continuous improvement and exploration are encouraged. Rather than following rigid protocols, ultra-learners remain agile and open, knowing that what works today may not work tomorrow, and that progress often lies in experimentation. Throughout the book, Scott Young reinforces his principles with vivid case studies. One of the most striking stories is that of Eric Barone, the developer of the popular video game Stardew Valley. Barone took on the challenge of building an entire game by himself, a task that typically requires a full development team. He had little formal training in art, music, or programming at the start, yet through relentless self-education, disciplined practice, and a willingness to learn from feedback and failure, he eventually produced a commercially and critically successful product. Barone's story exemplifies many ultra-learning principles, particularly directness, feedback, and experimentation. He didn't just learn game development from books. He built a real, functioning product, tested it with users, and iteratively improved it over time. His journey underscores the idea that high-stakes, real-world projects can serve as the ultimate learning platforms. Another compelling narrative comes from Benny Lewis, a polyglot who learned multiple languages in short periods by traveling to countries and immersing himself entirely in the linguistic and cultural environment. Rather than relying on textbooks or structured courses, Lewis adopted an aggressive immersion method, insisting on speaking from day one, even when his vocabulary was limited or his grammar imprecise. This bold approach forced him to develop communicative competence quickly and gave him a real-time feedback loop that fueled rapid improvement. Lewis's story illustrates directness and the power of retrieval, feedback, and experimentation. By engaging directly with native speakers and adjusting based on real-world conversational needs, he bypassed many of the inefficiencies of classroom-based language instruction. His example also challenges the myth that only naturally gifted individuals can become multilingual, showing that deliberate and consistent application of learning principles can yield extraordinary outcomes. Young also explores how ultralearning can be adapted to the constraints of everyday life. Not everyone can quit their job or dedicate full days to learning, yet the principles are still applicable in more modest forms. Many of the techniques, such as focused work blocks, active retrieval, drilling weak points, and soliciting feedback, can be employed in evenings and weekends. The key is not the quantity of time, but the quality of effort and strategy. Even with limited hours, individuals can make significant progress if they apply intense concentration and avoid inefficient practices like passive rereading or excessive review without testing. Young emphasizes that the goal is not to replace formal education or to suggest that institutions are obsolete, but rather to supplement or even accelerate learning outside of them. Ultralearning becomes a mindset and a toolbox that anyone can use to pursue personal and professional goals more effectively. Importantly, Young doesn't shy away from the psychological barriers that often deter people from pursuing ambitious learning projects. Fear of failure, perfectionism, imposter syndrome, and procrastination are real challenges, and he addresses them directly. He argues that fear is often a byproduct of uncertainty and lack of clarity. When learners don't know what to do next or how to judge their progress, they may hesitate or abandon their goals. By engaging in meta-learning, breaking tasks into smaller components, and seeking out early wins through practice and feedback, ultralearners can build momentum and confidence. Young also stresses the value of public accountability, structured timelines, and self-imposed constraints as tools to fight procrastination and maintain consistency. The idea is to make learning not only strategic but sustainable and emotionally manageable, recognizing that the path to mastery is rarely linear or easy. In addition, Young reflects on the societal implications of ultralearning. In an era marked by rapid technological change and evolving job markets, the ability to learn quickly and independently is becoming one of the most valuable and enduring skills. Employers increasingly value adaptability, problem-solving, and the willingness to acquire new capabilities on the fly. Traditional education systems, with their fixed curricula and slow response to industry changes, often lag behind the needs of modern work environments. Ultralearning offers an alternative model, one in which individuals take responsibility for their own development, customize their learning experiences, and stay ahead of the curve. This shift democratizes expertise and creates opportunities for people who may not have had access to elite institutions or conventional credentials. The ultralearner, in this view, becomes a self-made expert, a creative thinker, and a lifelong student who thrives in a world of uncertainty. Thank you for listening. Please stay tuned for next upcoming part of this book.